Hello and welcome to Writer Rant, author advice in 5 minutes or less because I have to get back to writing and so do you. So this week's episode I'd like to talk a little bit about a table of contents. Now, most books you find, they're going to have chapters, they're going to have sections. A lot of them anymore really don't have any titled chapters, right? So these are the chapters that have something describing what's going on, and those are great books to have a table of contents, because then you can kind of at a glance see, oh, here's kind of what the entire book's going to be about. The trouble with that is sometimes some books have over 100 chapters, and so your table of contents is 2 or 3 pages long just right out of the gate. And in that case, do you really need a table of contents if all your chapters are only a couple pages long? I mean, you're going to be reading through it fast enough anyway that you don't really need to, where was that? And if it's a really descriptive chapter title, then maybe you've kind of spoiled the book. But that's not really what I'm talking about here. What I'm really talking about is if you have a table of contents and you don't even have any chapter titles, you just have chapter 1, chapter 2, chapter 3, blah, 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 all the way down to the end of the book. Well, what's the point in that? You just say, oh, hey, here's where each chapter is in the book. And there is a case where that is useful, and that's in ebooks. So in ebook form, essentially you have table of contents at the beginning, and a lot of them will have, so for instance in like the Kindle Cloud Reader, you can go select the table of contents and you can jump back there to see, okay, well, what chapter am I on, what chapter, how many chapters are left. So I kind of use that as a, there's the percentage at the bottom that says here's how far you are in the book, but looking at the table of contents really helps me in an ebook to see, okay, here's how far I am in the story, here's how many more chapters I have to go. So that's kind of useful there. But in a paperback book, you can just flip it open and see where you are in the book. You don't really need a table of contents to flip back to see that kind of thing. So for instance, in my books, my first trilogy, each of the books only had about 8 chapters. They had other sections within those chapters that weren't titled, but the titles of the chapters really had reasoning behind them. But if it's not there, you don't really need a table of contents. I mean, it's really if you have distinguishable parts to your book that you want to essentially say, hey, here's where these parts are in the book. So for instance, even with like my trilogy, like I was saying, each book has about 8 chapters. But if I have all 3 of those books together in a single book, then yeah, I'd want a table of contents to say, well, here's where this book starts, here's where this other book starts, and here's where the appendix starts, and all that kind of stuff. So you really got to ask yourself, okay, if I have a table of contents in my book, why? What's the reason behind it? And if it doesn't help out the reader in any perceivable way, you can just leave it off, because it's not really adding anything to the book other than to say, well, my book has chapters, and these chapters are at certain pages when they start, and it's like, yeah, I mean, it's not really worth it. Ebooks, again, you can do it there. It's a useful thing there, especially if you have hyperlinks in it. But yeah, you don't really need it in a paperback. So what about you? Have you read any books that have had chapters in the table of contents that don't have any titles, and the table of contents is completely useless? Let us know about these books down below in the comments. And if there's anything that really bugs you as a reader or as a writer that you feel like you need to rant about, by all means drop a comment below, and maybe I'll get to it in a future episode. So thanks for watching this week's Writer Rant. I'm Benjamin M. Weilert.